Hi everyone! Good morning, good afternoon, good evening sa inyong tanan. Again, this is me, Jovi, and I am here to share my knowledge, to share my expertise since gusto na ako na makahelp sa inyo ha na mapasar ang lahat, ma, ma ma-master, ma-familiarize ang social studies na reviewer. And no worries because i-discuss na ko or i-share po na ko akong Gen Ed og Prof Ed na mga reviewer. But as of now, I'll be focusing first sa social studies. And this is helpful as well sa uban ng mga major because kini nga mga reviewer as well sa social studies magawas ni siya sa Gen Ed. This is still beneficial sa inyo ha. So ayaw jud mo skip. Dapat i-take ninyo every questionnaire, every information, dapat i-take ninyo as very important. Kay nga no, wala ka kabalo nga kaning inyong gipangsayangan ng mga questionnaire, mga questions is mogawa sa board exam. Okay? So, since taas kaayo ang kanang description gyud sa pre-colonial Philippines, so karon is gi-summarize na ko para nag-focus lang ta sa kuan sa board exam. So gi-summarize na ko ang mga important na mga information. So especially sa mga informations na manggawas sa board exam. So kani siya is very effective ni siya, updated ni siya ng mga reviewer and I wanted to share you sa inyo ha guys kay para makapasar mo sa board exam and praying na makatap sa board exam. Okay? So, without further ado, let us start with our review. So, since we already done with the questionnaire sa pre-colonial, we have part 1, part 2, part 3, 3 and part 4. So, if wala pa ka nakakita ato, pwede ni mo balikan sa ako ang channel na dito ang social major playlist na dito ang part 1, part 2, part 3 sa pre-colonial. So, after na ako ma-discuss na yung pre-colonial, so I'll be proceeding sa pag-abot sa mga Spanish. Okay? But for now, atong hinay-hinayon, atong himay-himayon ang history. Okay, so we are focusing now sa so this is the summary, okay? Mga important summary, important details sa pre-colonial history sa Philippines. So during sa pre-colonial in the Philippines, Philippines is already rich and resilient civilization. Okay. So, karon focus sa pre-colonial era of the Philippine history. Next, we have Japanese, American, Japanese. We have pre-colonial, Spanish, American, Japanese, martial law, EDSA, and so on and so forth. So today is ang summary. Kung gusto ka mo kung sa kato mga questionnaire na i-part 1 hangtod sa part 4. So karon is summary discussion ni siya. And so we have our learning objectives for pre-colonial Philippine history sa ating discussion. So brace yourselves, dapat i-ready ninyo yourself, naka-prepare inyo hang notebook o ball pen. Kung asa man mo gusto mag-take note kay tas-tas ni siya nga discussions kay gi-summarize gid na ko ang mga important details sa pre-colonial history sa Philippines. So here's our objectives. We have cognitive objectives is to identify the key features of pre-colonial Filipino society, which is including governance, social classes, and belief system. And also describe the cultural practices, economic activities, and artistic expressions of early Filipinos. Then explain the significance of indigenous systems such as the barangay, baybayin script, and animistic beliefs. Next, we have wait lang, murag naglag na siya. Analytical objectives. So, ganina natay. Okay. So, natay cognitive. Today, we have analytical objectives. Compare pre-colonial Filipino civilizations with other Southeast Asian cultures during the same period, and then analyze how pre-colonial values and systems influence modern Filipino identity and resilience. Evaluate the role of oral traditions, epics, and indigenous leadership in shaping community life. Next, we have hold on guys, kay murag naglag jud ni ako ang ano ay PC ngano man eh. Kadalang jud kay sa bear with me. Okay, we have effective objectives, which is to appreciate the richness and depth of Filipino heritage before colonization. Develop pride in early Filipino communities' ingenuity, spirituality, and artistry. Reflect on how ancestral wisdom can inspire faith driven leadership and community empowerment today. Okay, so for our effective objectives, appreciate the richness and depth of Filipino heritage before colonization, develop pride in early Filipino communities' ingenuity, spirituality, and artistry, reflect on how ancestral wisdom can inspire faith driven leadership and community empowerment today. So, let's reclaim our roots and reignite our pride by studying pre-colonial history. And please, guys, share this with your fellow educators and learners, which who believes that history is more than dates, it's identity. So we really need to study our history. So this is the first part of Philippine history, which is the pre-colonial era. Okay, so it's really important. Kaya nag-ingon ba si Dr. Jose Rizal nga ang taong di marunong lumingon sa pinanggalingan ay higit pa sa, o, 'di ba? Kamo na answer. So dapat studihan gyud nato, tagaan nato og importance ang ato ang history. Okay? So without further ado, let us start. By the way, guys, you can tag a future teacher nga nagkinahanglan for the reviewers para mapasapod nila ang board exam or magtapod sila sa board exam. So our ancestors were leaders, artists, and believers long before colonizers came. So wala pa ang mga colonizers, na sila leader, and then artist na mga Filipino, and then nana sila form of belief. Okay? So, again, pre-colonial Philippines, which is already rich and resilient civilization. Okay? The pre-colonial is a rich and resilient civilization. So, now let us focus first on the political and social structure of the pre-colonial Philippines. So, political and social structure during pre-colonial Philippines, they had already a governance rooted in kinship, wisdom, and community. Okay, let us discuss further. So before Spanish colonization, the Philippines was composed of independent barangays, small communities led by a datu who serve as both political and spiritual leader. These barangays were not primitive. These barangays were not primitive tribes. These barangays were not primitive tribes, but organized society with systems of governance, justice, and diplomacy. So before the Philippines, they have already independent barangays, and they had the leader, which is the dato. And then dato who serve as both political and a spiritual leader. Okay, so they have already an organized systems of governance, justice, and so the barangay wasn't born from colonization. It was born from migration, leadership, and shared purpose. So it's a boat that became a village, and village that became a legacy. So let us discuss further. So barangay system. So a barangay typically consisted of 30 to 100 families, forming a tight-knit community. It was led by a datu, chosen for his wisdom, bravery, and leadership. So ang barangay gipamunuan siya sa dato, and it was consisted of 30 to 100 families nga matawag na og barangay. And then they have a leader which is called dili siya basta-basta mahimong leader before ha or dato. Kailangan you show nga kanang naa kay skills, na kay bravery, and then kay leadership skills. Okay? So the dato serve as first chief executive. Okay? This is enforcing laws and leading the community. So, ang dato ang nag-enforce og mga batas. And then, siya ang nag-lead sa community. Next, judge. So, resolving disputes and overseeing trials by ordeals. Okay? No worries, we will be discussing further the trial by ordeal later. So, first, the to serve as chief executive. Second, judge, ang taga-resolve sa mga mulo or sa mga reklamo or taga mga sa barangay. Siya ang kuan sa mga disputes, mga pamamalakad, siya ang mag-judge, maghusga good. And then next, military leader. So the dato serves as chief executive, judge, and military leader. Okay, military leader, it is because they are the one defending the barangay from raids of rival group. Okay, again, so the dato serve as chief executive, judge, and military leader. And the term barangay comes from the balangay, an ancient wooden boat used by early Filipinos to migrate cross islands. So ang barangay nga pangalan nag-came from the word na balangay, which is the wooden boat. So mao ang ilang ginagamit before, ang kanang boat na made from wood, from kahoy, ana god. So from that boat na balangay, gitawag nila ang ilahang pundok or katong 30 to 100 families as barangay. So dito nag-originate ang name na barangay sa balangay, which is ang wooden boat. Okay? Ang katong boat na made from kahoy. And these boats were just vessels. Okay? They were community builders, families, and clans who traveled together on a balangay often settled together, forming a barangay. So the balangay symbolizes unity, mobility, and shared destiny, a powerful metaphor for Filipino identity. So dito nag-originate ang barangay sa balangay. It's because it symbolizes unity, mobility, and shared destiny. Okay? So it's a powerful metaphor for Filipino identity. So each barangay had its own customary laws, passed down orally and rooted in ancestral wisdom. So ang form of kanang pagpasa nila sa kanang mga batas sa mga kuan before is oral tradition. Ginaka nila verbally, okay? Because wala pa sila nakaana sulat-sulat, ana good. So, justice was communal and spiritual. Okay? Often involving rituals, trial by ordeal like chewing rice or hot water test. Okay, mo na ang trial by ordeal. Kanang para makuan gud nila kung guilt ba ang tao sa iyahang sala is ipachew niya ipachew pausapon nila og bugas and then sa hot water test. So, ang no worries, i-discuss nato ang chewing rice og hot water test later ha. Social harmony was maintained through shared values, rituals, and community labor, which is called bayanihan. Okay? Social harmony, gina-maintain na nila pamaagi sa shared values, rituals, and community labor, which is the bayanihan. So, ang bayanihan, kung kinsa to'y katong nanginahanglan og tabang na silingan nila para mag-build og house, ang mga silingan mag-adto dito tanan magtabang para tabangan og build ang house. Mo na siya ang called na bayanihan. So the barangay system reflects early Filipino governance, autonomous, adaptive, and deeply relational. It laid the foundation for local leadership, which Spanish colonizers later adopted and formalized. So today, the barangay remains the smallest political unit in the Philippines, but its roots go far deeper than colonial administration. So gamay siya ang kanang barangay pero dako siya og impacts as a whole. Okay? So, Just as the barangay carried families toward no new shores, the barangay carried values that still guide Filipino communities today. Okay? So, ang balangay or ang katong boat is motors lang ang ginagamit nila to travel by sea na makadto sila sa laing nga dapit. So, ang barangay, so 'di ba ang barangay came from the word balangay nga naga-travel it kuan for naga-travel from place to another place using boat as their medium of transportation. And then ang barangay naman mo ni siya ang naga-carried values that guides Filipino communities even today. Okay. So, the pre-colonial people has already social classes. So we have Maharlika, Timawa, Alipin, which also Alipin, which is it has Aliping na mamahay and Aliping sa gigilid. So kung Maharlika, this is nobility and warriors. Maharlika mo na siya ang kumbaga ang prestigious na mga people, kumbaga makapangyarihan na mga people, and then they are warriors as well. Timawa, this is free men and often farmers or traders. Okay? So Timawa as well, sometimes ginakuan sila as farmers or traders or even a warrior. Alipin, this is servants or slaves. And then there's no with subclasses, okay? Ang subclasses nila sa alipin is aliping na mamahay and aliping sa gigilid. And when we talk about aliping na mamahay, this alipin can able to own a house. Okay? Alipin sa gigilid, kini siya wala sila sariling balay. They live with the master's house. Okay? So they live in the master's house. Okay, mao na siya ang aliping sa gigilid. So, pre-colonial Filipino, they have also a justice system. Okay? So, justice system nila, disputes were resolved by the dato or elders. Okay? So, ang kuan nila pamamaraan is trial by ordeal. Okay? So, pamamaraan nila silang justice is going through trial by ordeal. Example is chewing rice and hot water test, which is reflected belief in divine justice. Okay? So when we talk about chewing rice, okay, kini siya. So in pre-colonial Filipino society, justice was often rooted in spiritual belief and divine intervention. So when disputes couldn't be resolved through testimony or community consensus, people turned to trials by order. Hold on. People turned to trials by ordeal rituals that tested the accused through physical or symbolic challenges. So if dili siya ma-resolve ang ilahang kaso sa community consensus or mga testimony, dito ang mag-agi sila sa isa ka pamamaraan sa trial by ordeal, which is pausapon na ang katong hingsad-an og bugas. So if ever, so mo ni siya, what was the chewing rice ordeal? So mo ni siya ang process sa chewing rice. So suspects were given a small amount of uncooked rice to chew. So tagaan og kanang hilaw nga bugas para ilang usapon. And then each person would spit out their saliva. So after nila mausap ang bugas, ipaluwa, tapos tan-awon i-check ang ilahang laway. And the thickness of the saliva was observed. So i-check dito, evaluate dito ang ilahang laway, di ba? Makakatawa ka pero yes mo ni siya ang ilahang pamamaraan sa before sa justice. Okay. So pausapon og bugas and then later on, pag usap ipaluwa ang katong giusap na bugas tapos i-check ang ilahang laway. So the one whose saliva came out thickest, kumbaga ang ilahang laway kanang lapot, was believed to be guilty. 'Di ba amazing? And then based on the belief that guilt caused the anxiety and dryness of the mouth. Amazing, 'di ba? So ipausap ang bugas and then ipaluwa tapos i-check ang laway, kung lapot ang ilahang laway, guilty na sila sa ilahang sala. Okay? Kay because pag-usap nila nga stress sila, ana sila anxiety, mao nay maka-cause of dryness of their mouth. So dira mabal-an nga guilty sila pag lapot ilahang laway. Okay? Okay, yes, that is the correct. Okay, let us proceed. So, the cultural significance of chewing rice. So, this ordeal was based on the idea that truth manifests physically and that divine forces would reveal guilt through bodily signs. O, diba? So it reflects the animistic worldview of early Filipinos where nature and spirit were deeply intertwined. Okay? So the ritual was not just judicial, it was spiritual, invoking the presence of Anito or ancestral spirit to guide the justice. So, ang ilahang pamamaraan sa chewing rice, this is not just judicial, but this is also spiritual. Okay? So, uh, here it comes the hot water test. Okay, this is so they have two trial by ordeal system, which is chewing rice and hot water test. Okay, so hot water test mauna ni siya in some barangays when guilt couldn't be determined through testimony or consensus. Pag dili gani ma-resolve ang conflict or ang sitwasyon through consensus or the testimony of sa hitungdan, mag-proceed sila into hot water test sa ikaduha, which is suspects were subjected to a boiling water test. So, unsa na siya? So, boiling water test or hot water test. This is a stone or object was placed in a pot of boiling water. So, at sa dako kayo na kalaha, na ay nagbukal-bukal ang kalaha and then butangan nito og kanang bato or iron and then each suspect was ordered to retrieve the object with their bare hand. So, tanan suspect kuhaon to nila ang katong bato nga nagbukal-bukal dito sa ilalom dito sa kalaha sa ilahang bare hand. So the person who refused was immediately considered guilty. So kung kinsa ang mag-refuse among those who attempted, the one whose hand was most scalded was judged as the culprit. Or kung silang duha nga nakasala nagpunit dito sa katong nagbukal-bukal na tubig ipunit ang bato dito and then ilahang kamot is napaslot kana nga tao guilty na siya sa iyahang sala. Mao na siya ang hot water test. So this ordeal was based in the belief that divine forces would protect the innocent and expose the guilty through physical signs. Okay, nasabtan ang hot water test. Okay, very good. So, first is katong chewing rice. So, the early Filipinos has two trial by ordeals. First is the katong chewing rice, katong pausapon sila nga and then ipaluwa ang katong giusap nila na bugas tapos i-check ilahang laway kung lapot ba, kung lapot guilty sila ana good. And then second, the hot water test, which is na ay nagbukal-bukal na kalaha, ibutang dito ang bato and then or bato or iron and then ipakuha dito kung kinsa ang mag refuse na magkuha dito guilty. And also if sila tanan magkuha atong kuan tapos kinsa ang kamot na mas na kanang nalapnos ang kamot, mo na siya ang guilty. Okay? All right. So let us proceed. Okay, so the cultural and spiritual meaning sa trial by ordeal. So this is just this justice was not just legal; it was spiritual. So the ordeal invoked into Anito spirits. Okay, into invoke Anito, which is the spirits to reveal the truth. So the test reflected a worldview where nature and morality were intertwined. Okay? It emphasized courage, obedience, and divine favor as the markers of innocence. So katong inosente na tao, paboran sa anito or sa spirits na say for example, pag punit na sa bato dili unsa iyahang kamot. Okay, so ang ilahang pamamaraan sa justice is an achieving rice and hot water test, and this justice composed of legality and spirituality. Hold on, murag. Okay, give me time. Hold on. Okay, murag. Di siya lalim. Amazing. So, paligog subscribe kay yes. Di siya lalim magano pero para sa inyo habato nako. Okay, let us proceed. Okay, we are done with political and social court. We are done for the political and social structure, and now we'll be proceeding to the second topic, which is beliefs and spirituality. So, the belief and spirituality of the pre-colonial Philippines. This is a sacred world of spirits, nature, and ancestral wisdom. So, ilahang belief before is animism, which is mao na sila ang core world view. And this was way back in the pre-colonial era, okay? Animism ilahang form of belief. Pre-colonial Filipinos practiced animism, that the belief that spirits, which is the anito, inhabited everything in the trees, river, mountains, animals, ancestors, and even natural phenomena like thunder or wind. So before, ang mga Filipino, they have a lot of gods. Okay? Dagan sila og mga ginoo-ginoo. Okay? Nagasamba sila sa mga palibot, bisag sa kahoy, sa river, sa mountain, bisag sa hayop, mga ancestors, and even sa mga natural phenomena like thunder and wind. Okay, ginasamba na nila. So there was no strict divide between the physical and the spiritual realms. Every action, planting crops, fishing, and building homes was done with reverence and ritual. Magpapugas og humay or mais, mag-ano pa na sila, magsamba-samba ka ng maghalad-halad, something nga. That was way back before na dili pa mi Christian, okay? Pero pagkatong na Kristohano namin, nawala na to siya na mga pamamahiin. Pamahiin? Or belief, ano god? So, spirits were seen as guardians, guides, and enforcers of moral order. Harmony with the spirit world meant health, harvest, and protection. So, way back before na wala pa mi na Kristohanon, ang amo ang tagatambal, mananambal is kanang mga abyan-abyan. Nagakuan gyud mi nagakuan mi kanang mga gods good before sa kuan abtan pa nako nasa ako ang ginikanan. Pero sukad na nakristohanon nami katong tanan giwala na namo. Okay? So types of spirits and okay. So going back, types of spirits and deities. Okay? So again, ang mga Filipino is type of belief is animism, which is anito, which is spirits of the ancestors, natures, and local deity. They were honored through offerings, chants, and rituals. And then Bathala, this is the supreme deity in Tagalog mythology, which is creator of all things. Okay, mao na ang kuan sa Bathala, ang supreme deity in Tagalog mythology. Kaptan naman, this is in Visayas. And then Kabunian, this is in Cordillera. And other regional gods govern the sky, sea, and earth. Diwata, so mao ni siya ang benevolent nature spirits, often associated with forests, rivers, and mountains. So, these beliefs reflects a deep respect for creation, where nature wasn't just a scenery but sanctuary. So gina-honor nila or ginakuan nila ang mga bagay-bagay sa, say for example, sa sapa, sa kahoy, nagakuan sila na sa form of sanctuary. Okay, so let us proceed. Rituals, offerings, and sacred spaces. So rituals, this is included blood and bloodless sacrifices, chants, dances, and symbolic acts to appease spirits or seek blessings. So ang rituals nagakuan na siya og kanang mga halad-halad, okay? Like bloodless sacrifice na mga chants, dance, and ana, and even karon makita paghapon nimo ang nagakuan og ani nga mga belief, nagakuan og mga rituals. Okay, offering range from food and flowers to animal sacrifices depending on the occasions. Sacred spaces were often natural groves, riversides, mountain tops, temporary altars built for ceremony. So, ang kuan nila is na sila yung mga altar-altar, na sila yung mga kuan na dito nila ibutang ang ilang mga halal. So these practices weren't just superstition way back before. They were system of meaning, morality, and community cohesion. So ginabuhat na nila to have a system of meaning, morality, and community cohesion. So spirituality in daily life, before, every aspect of life, birth, death, farming, illness, travel was infused with spiritual significance. And then they have amulets like anting-anting, charms and omens were used for protection and guidance. And even karon agyapin nagaingana, di ba? And burial practices included offerings, mourning rituals, and belief in soul immortality. Okay, so nagatuo pa sila for the soul immortality. So napa sila mga burial practices, which is nagahalad, na mourning rituals, and bisan gani karon apay mag-adto og kanang lubnganan, mag-adto sa kuan pagka November, di ba, napay kalag-kalag days na mag-offering. So, mo na siya ang practices before and nadala bisan karon. So the rituals and offerings, again, it includes chants, dances, and animal sacrifices to appease spirits and ensures harvest, health, and protection. Again, this is in pre-colonial era. And even karon makita gyapon nimo ang uban nga naga-exist. So before, colonizers thought religion. Filipinos already live in a sacred world where rivers had spirits, leader were healers, and every harvest was a prayer. So tanan nilang pagabuhaton is kuan sila og mga offering na sila mga sa tawag ani ay na sila ginabuhat ng mga rituals. Now, let us proceed to the trade and economic life. Okay. So, pre-colonial Philippines, a thriving maritime economy rooted in community and craft. So, pre-colonial people already have they had a maritime economy which is already rooted in community and craft. So, far from being isolated, pre-colonial Filipinos were active participants in regional trade networks. They exchanged goods with China, India, Arabia, and Southeast Asia. So a maritime trading powerhouse. So long before colonization, the Philippine archipelago was a vibrant hub of regional and international trade. Its strategic location in Southeast Asia made it a natural crossroads from merchants from China, India, Arabia, and neighboring islands. Okay, so before, the Philippine is a vibrant hub of regional and international trade. So the coastal barangay. So this is the settlements were often built near rivers and shores to facilitate trade. So they have already coastal barangays. And then the balangay boats, these is ancient vessels, enabled long distance travels and commerce connecting barangays to foreign port. So ginagamit nila is the balangay boats. So the trading partners. So first is the Chinese merchants brought the porcelain, silk, and tea. So first trader gid sa ano is the Chinese sa Philippines sa pre-colonial history. And we have also Indian traders, which is exchange of beads, cottons, and metal goods. We have also Arab merchants which introduce spices, perfumes, and Islamic ideas. We have also Malay kingdoms traded in gold, rice, and forest products. So the trading partners of the Philippines in pre-colonial is the Chinese, Indian, Arab, and malay. So the currency and exchange of system. So uh, the the um the exchange system before is the barter system. So this is the most trade was conducted through barter, which is in exchange of goods like rice, textiles, and livestock. So ang ways of exchange nila is barter system. Piloncitos naman, this is a small gold nuggets which is used as early currency, often shaped like a tiny beads. So, piloncitos ginagamit nila kanang ang early ginagawa nila as early currency nga kanang gamay nga gold nuggets para ikuan nila as currency sa mga goods. Okay? This is often shaped like tiny beads. However, ang majority gyud is the barter system. And then they created the barter rings. So barter rings, this is a circular gold ornaments used in a high value exchanges, especially among nobility. Okay, so the barter rings, ang makabuan lang ani is katong mga dato. Okay? So mo ni siya ang circular gold ornaments used in high value exchanges, especially among nobility. Okay, so these systems shows that early Filipinos had economic sophistication long before the Spanish coinage arrived. Okay, so wala pa naabot ang Spanish na ana ang economic system sa Philippines. Alright, so let us proceed. So the local resources and livelihoods of the Filipino. So ang primary resources nila sa ilang livelihood is agriculture. Filipinos cultivated rice, root crops, sugarcane, and coconut using kaingin, which is the slash and burn. And bayanihan mo na siya ang communal labor, which is nagtinabangay ang mga tao. Fishing and hunting. This is a coastal communities thrive on fishing, while inland groups hunted wild game and gathered forest products. Okay, so fishing, mao na sila ang katong mga Pilipino nga nagpuyo sa duol sa dagat, duol sa sapa, mao na ilahang ways of livelihoods. And sa katong nasa kuan naman nasa yuta, nasa yuta, nasa kuan kagubatan ang ilahang ways of livelihood is hunting and gathering. Okay? So the craftsmanship. So ang craftsmanship of the Filipino first is weaving, which is abaca and cotton textile were highly valued. Pottery and metalwork. This is used for daily life and trade. Okay? Ang goldsmithing, this is a Filipinos created intricate jewelry and ritual items from locally mined gold. So naga-create na sila og jewelry nga sometimes ginako nila sa rituals, and then ang jewelry, ang kanang gold is ginako nila locally. Okay? So the economic role of the dato. Okay. So the dato was not just political leader, but also an economic manager. He controlled the access to resources like organized trade and expeditions and collected tribute from followers. So naapod siya ang mga followers niya maghatag pud og contribution sa ilahang dato. So naapod sila ialay sa dato. Wealth was source of power, used to reward loyalty, forge alliances, and maintain status. Okay? So, ang dato is kanang kumbaga makapangyarihan siya na siya'y kayamanan, na siya'y enough wealth. Okay? Muna siya ang source of power. And then the dato stewardship echoes today's calls for servant leadership, where wealth is used not for dominance but for community upliftment. Okay? So, the strategic legacy. So, during pre-colonial Filipinos were not just isolated. They were global traders, skilled artisans, and resourceful farmers. Okay, they are already resourceful. Okay, their economic system were adaptive, relational, and rooted in reciprocity. Understanding this legacy helps decolonize economic narratives and celebrates indigenous ingenuity. Okay, the trade goods, which is the export, ang gold, pearls, beeswax, abaca, and woven textiles. So, when we talk about export, mo na ang product nato nga baligya nato sa other ito other country mo na siya ang exports, and ang imports naman ang kanang mga product gikan sa other places gina-imports nato like porcelain, silk, spices, and beads. Okay, however ang ato ang mga product locally, which is gold, pearl, beeswax, abacan, woven textiles, gina-export nato, ginabaligya nato sa other places, sa other country. And then ang atong ginapalit is the porcelain, silk, spices, and beads. Next, we have currency forms. So, again, the currency forms nila, they have piloncitos, which is the small gold nuggets. Mo na sila ang gina-use nila as currency. And then barter rings, this is a gold ring used in high value exchange. Ang katong mga dato lang maka-afford aning barter rings. So before colonizers brought coins in the Philippines, Filipinos traded with gold, wisdom, and trust. So our ancestors weren't just surviving, they were thriving. And now let us proceed to the daily life and livelihood of the Filipinos. So in pre-colonial Philippines, a life rooted in nature, craft, and community. So ilahang panginabuhian nagaugat sa nature, sa craft, and community. The housing and settlements of the Filipinos. So most Filipinos live in bahay kubo, which is a homes built in stilts using bamboo, nipa, and anahaw. These structures were elevated to protect against floods and pests. Okay? So ang ilang balay is bahay kubo, which is built using bamboo, nipa, and anahaw. It is because bamboo, nipa, and anahaw, mo na siya, daghan na siya nga mga kind of species sa plants before sa Philippines. Kumbaga, tawag ano si other term, mo na siya ang majority nga um na na kanang kumbaga sturdy na himuon nila nga materials para mag-build og bahay kubo. Okay? To protect themselves against floods and pests sa mga hayop, baha, sa init, good. And then settlements were often near rivers, coastlines, or fertile land, forming barangays led by the dato. So usually, ang mga tao nagapuyo duol sa sapa, duol sa tubig. Okay, dito sila naga-form of barangay, naga-form sa ilahang community. Homes were simple but functional, reflecting harmony with nature and communal living. Okay, this was before the pre-colonial era. Agriculture and food production. So, people or Filipino practiced kaingin system, which is the slash and burn farming, which is cultivating rice, root crops, coconut, and sugarcane. So, ang ilang kuan before sa ilang agriculture is nagakaingin sila, ang lasang ilahan ng ikaingin, ilahan ng pangtumbahon ang mga kahoy, ilahan ang mga sagbot, pangkuan nila, and then i-burn nila, kanang sunugon. Kay para ang katong sinunog na mga, kuan sa mga kahoy, mga leaves, kanang lawas, kanang kuan sa mga grass, mahimong fertilizer sa yuta. So dito sila nagatanom, naga-cultivate og rice, root crops, coconut, and sugarcane. So farming was the backbone of livelihood. Filipinos practice kaingin, which is the slash and burn, and terracing in mountainous areas. Okay? So the crops included the rice, which is the staple food. Okay? Mao na siya ang main food nila, ang rice, root crops. This is a gabi, kamote, and obi. So ang root crops na kanang kumbaga kung wala sila'y bugas ang ilahang pagpalit is ang root crops which is the gabi, the kamote, and the ube. Coconut, sugarcane, banana, and corn. Mapod na ilahang uban na mga products. Farming was often communal, guided by the spirits of bayanihan, neighbors helping each other during planting and harvesting. Okay? So, before, ang mga Filipino is nagtinabangay. Say for example, ang isa mag-uma, tabang-tabangan sa silingan, and then ang next na pod, mag-uma, tabang-tabangan sa mga silingan, and then pag-harvest, mo gyapon na ilang ginabuhat, magbayanihan sila, magtinabangay sila. Next, we have fishing, hunting, and gathering. So, kini siya, mauni ang mga panginabuhian sa mga lugar. Say for example, pag doon sa dagat, ang ilang panginabuhian is fishing. Coastal barangays thrive in fishing using nets, traps, and spears. Fish was dried, smoked, or fermented, which is the bagoong. So, para mapadugay nila ang say tawag ani lifespan, para mapadugay nila ang isda, ug ganahan kay wala pa bayay kuan before no wala pay ref, wala pa ganahan. So ang ilang ginabuhat sa isda is ilahang ginapauga, gina-dried, sun drying. Ang uban is ilang paasuhan, the smoked fish. And then ang uban pod is ilang fermented, okay? However, in inland communities, ang ilahang main kuan sa ilang kuan is hunted wild boar, deer, and birds using bows, spears, and traps. Okay? Kini siya, ang inland, katong nasa mga yuta nga layo sa dagat, ang ilang kuan is kanang naga-hunt. Bisag sa bukid gani namon nagyapon naga-hunt ug ingana god. Pero wala na bear, wala na deer, sa pay kuan. Pero napay ihalas na baboy sa amo, pero dalang na lang. Pero nakaabot pa gyud ko before nga naga-pangkuan gyud sila papa nagapang-hunting, nagapangkuan sila manong ana god. Ana ang ways of living nadala pa nila sa pre-colonial ana god. So forests provided herbs, honey, rattan, and medicinal plants using for healing and trade. So the rhythms of Bukid life today echo ancestral wisdom, living of the land with reverence and resourcefulness. So ang mga taga-bukid, makita nato nga they're living some of the pre-colonial na mga ways of living. Okay? Makita nimo ang pagka-resourcefulness, ang ilahang ka pamamaraan, something nga na good kay bisan kami nga taga-bukid ing ana napagihapon ing ana na mga characteristic. Okay? Next, we have housing. So, again, housing nila before is the bahay kubo, di ba? That is made from bamboo and rattan. So, ang housing nila, this is elevated design. Most homes were built on stilts to protect against floods, pests, and wild animals. So, natural materials nila, this is builders use bamboo, wood, nipa palm, kugon grass, and other locally sourced materials. Ilang housing is open for ventilation. So, lapos-lapos ang hangin. Homes were designed with wide windows and open walls to allow airflow, perfect for tropical climate. So, mga bahay kubo before is na mga kanang mga dagko nga bintana, ana god, mga dagko nga pultahan para it allows the air to enter para bugnaw ang ilahang kanang kuan god. So open for ventilation. And syempre bugnaw pud gid na ilahang kuan. It is because nabalutan pa man sila kanang if you're going to imagine life before sa bahay kubo, daghan pa kay kakahuyan, daghan pag kanang mga plants, and then the rivers. Ang rivers nila daghan pag kanang isda, ana good. So ang pamumuhay nila before is very kanang mapayapa. 'Di ba? Payak at mapayapa. Kay wala pay aircon pero no need na for aircon kay lapos-lapos man ang hangin kanang bugnaw ang hangin kay daghang pagkahoy, and then ana good, and then ang mga materials nila kay kanang bugnaw, kanang bamboo, kanang nipa, kugon, something ingana good. And then Their mobility and adaptation. Structures were often lightweight and movable, reflecting the semi-nomadic lifestyle for early Filipinos. So, ang ilahang balay is kanang dili siya kanang like kuan gyud nga kuan naka-study na siya dinhaa. Ang ilang balay is pwede alsa-alsahon para pag magbalhin sila og area ilaharang alsahon padulong sa other na area. Okay? So ang ilang balay is kanang mobility, kanang and adaptation kanang pwede ra madala-dala og bag-adto sila sa other places. Okay? So dili pud gyud kayo dako na balay ilang ginabuhat kay maglisod man sila. So ilang ginakaon is kanang gamay lang na tama lang para sa ilang higdaan, tulugan. So ang balay before is kanang isahan ba kusina, tulugan, ana god wala na kwarto and accessible. So regional housing styles, again we have bahay kubo which is or payag. So it was originated in Tagalog and Visayan regions. So this is the rectangular floor plan, raised on stilts, and this is made of bamboo and nipa. The symbol of the bahay kubo is for symbol of simplicity, sustainability, and communal life. And then for Bali naman, this is in Ifugao or Ifugao and Cordillera Cordillera region. So this is pyramid-like structure with sloping walls. So pyramid. And then built on post with cogon roofing. So ang bahay kubo, rectangular siya, made of bamboo and nipa. And then ang ano naman ang bale is pyramid built on with kugon. Mo na kugon ang ilang atop. And then ang interior nila had three levels. Ground, living area, and a storage which is ground post, living area which is the ladder access, and storage. However, the bahay kubo is very simple. Kumbaga isahan lang yun dinaa. Rectangular ang floor plan. Ang bali naman is pyramid made of kugon ang ilang atop and then asya three levels. And then sa Ivatan houses in Batanes made of limestone. Social ilaha, 'di ba? Made of limestone and coral walls. Wow. With thick steel kogon gyapon ilang atop. Designed with withstand to strong typhoons and winds. Symbols of resilience and craftsmanship. Okay, sa Ivatan, ang ilaha is made of limestone. Kay nga no, kusog kayo ang ilang hangin, kusog kayo ang hangin dito sa ilaha. And then, ang ilang atop steel kogon. And then, ang ilahang balay, it can withstand with strong typhoons. Kay, made of limestone. Next, the cultural significance. Hold on, mag-inom sa akong water. Okay, so cultural significance. So homes were more than shelters. They were expressions of identity, spirituality, and social culture. Placement of homes reflected community hierarchy with the datus house often centrally located. So, imong imagine mga balay sa mga ang balay sa mga community ang napatungaan na is usually ang balay sa dato, ang ilang balay sa leader. And some homes included ritual spaces, altars, or areas for ancestral offerings. So nakaabot pagiguan ni before nga ang balay namo or kuan na siya halaran, ana good. So before ang mga balay is na mga halaran, ay altar, na ay kanang kuan, ana god na ay kumbaga butanganan sa ilang offering sa ilahang Ginoo. So the bahay kubo isn't just a house. It's a hymn to harmony, humility, and heritage. So mao gyud na siya ang atong ang kagikan. Next, hold on, naglag na akong OMG, sobra oras naman dayta. Taas-taas gyud ni siya nga ano guys, kanang discussion so brace yourself. But kini intact na gyud ni tanan ang information sa pre-colonization. So bear with me. Ato ni siyang himay. So this is all for pre-colonization, okay? So next na po nato ikuan is ang Spanish. Oh, hangak man siya, hangak. Guys, please don't forget to like and subscribe, okay? Para mas maganahan pa ko mag-prepare og mga materials di siya lalim. Pero yes, para sa inyo ha. I'll gonna do everything I can para makahelp sa inyo ha, okay? So, let us proceed to pre-colonial homes were just okay. So pre-colonial homes weren't just built, they were woven from wisdom, weather, and worship. From the Bahay Kubo to the Ivatan Fortress, each shelter told a story of survival and soul. This is very self-explanatory. So, nagabuhat silang balay para to protect them from the weather, from animals, from pests, floods, something like that. And every balay is na sila kanang halaran, na sila mga kanang kuan na sila mga offering para sa ilang mga Ginoo. So, let us proceed to the crafts and industries. So, Filipino were skilled artisan producing. So, ang mga Filipino before is already skilled na, mga artist na. And then they weaving, ang ways of weaving nila or ang mga ginawave nila is abaka, cotton, and silk textiles. The pottery, they have jars, cooking vessels, and ritual items. And for the metal work, they have tools, weapons, and gold jewelry. These crafts were not just economic, okay? They were cultural expression passed down through generations, okay? So Filipinos are already skilled before, okay? They're already an artist. So naga wave sila, na sila pottery, na sila metal work. And then gender roles and family life. So before, women enjoyed equal status with men. They could own a property, lead rituals, and even govern barangays. So they have equality in the pre-colonial period. Families were bilateral heritage were traced through both mother and father. Marriage, child rearing, and inheritance were guided by customary law with deep respect for elders and ancestors. So now let us proceed to culture, literacy, and art. In the pre-colonial Philippines, a civilizations of storytellers, scribes, and the spiritual artists. So in pre-colonial, Filipinos were expressive, literate, and artistic. Their culture was rich in oral literature, visual art, and symbolic traditions. Early Filipinos used baybayin as a syllabic writing system, each on bamboo, leaves, and pottery. Excuse me. It was widely used across Luzon and part of Visayas. Both men and women were literate, especially among the Maharlika and the Babaylan classes. Writing was used for, ang pagsulat ginagamit nila for personal communication, poetry and prayer, and legal agreements and trade records. So, ang pagsusulat ginagamit nila for personal communication, poetry and prayers, and legal agreements and trade records. So, ang baybayin, mo na sila ang syllabic writing system used in poetry. So, mao na siya ang mode of writing system sa pre-colonial period, which is the baybayin. A syllabic writing system used for poetry, communication, and record keeping. So, ginasulat nila dito sa sa written in the bamboo. Either sa lawas sa bamboo, sa leaves, and ginasulat po nila sa pottery. Baybayin wasn't just a script, it was a sacred. Every stroke carried memory, meaning, and mission. So dili basta-basta ang baybayin nga koan. This is a sacred. So oral literature. Filipinos pass down wisdom through epics, chants, riddles, and proverbs. So, ginapasa nila ang mga wisdom nila, ang mga learnings nila, or ang mga epics, chants, riddles, proverbs through oral. Okay? This oral tradition preserve ancestral values, heroism, and spiritual beliefs. And notable epics is Biag ni Lamang, and this is in Ilocano. So Biag ni Lamang, this is a tale for bravery and love. Ang Daranga naman, this is in Maranao. This is a poetic saga of warriors and honor. Ang Hudhud, this is in Ifugao. This is a chant song during the harvest and ritual. Okay? Hudhud, this is a chant for during harvest and rituals. So the Biag ni Lamang, this is a tale for bravery, and the Rangin, that is poetic saga warriors and honor. So again, Biag ni Lamang in Ilocano, Darangan in Maranao, Hudhud in Ifugao, which is during harvest and ritual. So the it has three notable epics, which is Biag ni Lamang, Darangan, and Hudhud. So our ancestors didn't just speak, they sang their stories, carved their prayers, and danced their faith. Nakulangan na siya H. So ang ancestors nato before, dili lang sila di lang sila kuan orally, hold on. Di lang sila kuan nag-istorya, kuan pud sila gina kanta nila ang stories, gina-carve nila ang ilahang prayers, and naga-dance sila through sa ilahang faith. We are now in sculpture, carving, and symbolic art. During pre-colonial, Filipinos were master artisans, creating, which is we have Bolol, which is the Ifugao rice gods, carved in wooden figures for agricultural blessings. So, sa Ifugao, gikuan nila ang Bolol, which is the Ifugao rice gods. Sa Agusan gold image, this is a 21-karat gold statue used in rituals. Petroglyphs naman, this is ancient rock carving depicting ritual symbols and healing rites. So the materials na ginagamit nila is wood, stone, gold, and bone. This is gina-shape nila with tools and spiritual intention. So the music, dance, and performance. Music was the central to rituals, celebrations, and storytelling. Instruments included kulintang. Kulintang, this is a gong ensemble. Palaling naman, this is a nose flute. Okay? Nose flute. Agong, this is a large suspended gong. Dances mimic nature, warfare, and courtship, often performed during harvest, weddings, and spiritual ceremonies. So nagasayaw sila, ginakuha nila into nature, warfare, courtship, and often performed during harvest, weddings, and spiritual ceremonies. So this art form, dili lang siya naga-entertain. This is the expression of identity, spirituality, and social cohesion. So the textile and adornment. Filipinos wove abaca, cotton, and silk into intricate textiles, often dyed with natural pigments. So, nag-wove sila using the abaca, cotton, and silk. And then, ang ilahang gina-color is mga natural pigments. Ang clothing reflected status, region, and ritual purpose. So the tattoos, which is batok, were worn with pride, symbols of bravery, beauty, and spiritual protection. So ang tattoo, ginakuan nila symbolizing for bravery, beauty, and spiritual protection. So before colonizers taught, Filipinos were already carving gods, chanting epics, and writing prayers in baybayin. So our culture wasn't borrowed, it was born. Okay? So ang culture nato dili na siya ginahiram. It was already born bago pa niabot ang mga Spaniards. So the tattoos and body art. So the painted warriors of the Visayas, ink in bravery, belief, and legacy. So mo na siya ang kuan for the tattoo. Body art na siya. dili na siya basta-basta before ang tato nga ma-achieve nimo na magpatato ka. Kailangan magpakita pa ka og bravery, and then it symbolizes your belief and your legacy. And who were the pintados? Kinsa ba sila? So the term pintados, Spanish for painted ones, was given by Spanish colonizers in 1565 to describe the Visayan warriors whose bodies were covered in intricate tattoos. Okay? So pintados was found or will be the people in the Visayan. This was the warrior in the Visayan region. These tattoos weren't just decorative; they were visual records of achievements, were symbols of status and spiritual armor. So ang tattoo before sa mga warrior, it symbolizes their bravery, their achievement, their symbol of status, and spiritual armor. So the practice was so widespread and striking that the Visayas were dubbed Las Islas de los Pintados, the island of the painted ones. So the island of the painted ones is in Visayas region. So symbolism and purpose. So again, the tattoo, the symbolism and purpose is bravery. First is the bravery, status, spiritual protection. Bravery. This is the tattoos were earned through acts of valor, okay? Mo na nga dili ka basta-basta makapatato ka before, okay? Matatuan ka, it symbolizes your bravery na-earn na nimo through the acts of valor, especially in a battle or raids. So the more tattoos a warrior had, the more feared and respected they were, okay? So status. Placement and complexity of tattoos indicated rank, accomplishment, and social standing. Okay? So the higher the rank you have, the daghan the tattoo you have. So the many tattoo ma-found sa imong body. And the next is spiritual protection. Tattoos were believed to ward off evil spirits, protect the soul, and connect the wearer to the ancestral power. Okay? So, tattoo symbolizes as bravery, status, and spiritual protection. So, these mark weren't just ink. They were prayers etched in skin, courage carved into flesh. So before, dili basta-basta makapatato ang mga tao, okay? Dapat makita nga sa mga warrior, makon ang mga act of matatuan sila, kuan sa ilahang kanang si tawagan sige, other term for act of valor sa ilahang kuan. Basta ka ng ilahan ng kumbaga achievement sa ilahang pagka-warrior, and then status sa imong rank, and then spiritual connection. So the technique and ritual. Tattooing was a painful and sacred processes, okay? Often performed by skilled artisan using, okay, kini siya. Mo ni siya ang tradisyon nga pagkuan sa tattoo before. Ang ginagamit is calamansi thorn. So ang tunok sa calamansi, touch two sticks. So di ba ang tunok sa calamansi gikuan sa stick. And then charcoal paste tap into the skin. Hold on, sa na oras. Mutrabaho pa ko alas 9. alas 7 na. Okay. So ang charcoal paste kanang ang katong tunok sa kalamansi kuan sa i-attach sa skin, ituslo dito sa charcoal, ituslo dito and then tusok-tusok sa panit. And then cutting and rubbing charcoal into open wounds. Oh my God. 'Di ba? Amazing kayo. Grabe kayo ang pagkakuan sa pagpatato before kay 'di ba ang traditional is calamansi thorns, and then ang kanang ink nila is ang charcoal, and then cutting and rubbing charcoal into open wounds, 'di ba? Kuan sa imong open wounds, amazing. So the process required endurance and spiritual readiness, making it a rite of passage for warriors and leaders. Muna siya nga di ka basta-basta makapatato before sa pre-colonial history, sa pre-colonial era. And artistic styles and placements. So, ang tattoo, gidesign siya to include a geometric patterns, hold on. Okay. So ang tattoo gidesign siya included like geometric patterns, waves, animals and ancestral symbols. Full body tattoo for elite warriors, starting from the feet and moving upward with each achievement. Amazing. So ang fully body tattoos para lang na siya sa mga elite warriors. So ang first tattooan ana is nag-start siya sa tiil, sa feet. And then moving upward, depende na sa imong achievement. Okay? Kung daghan kag achievement, daghan ka og tattoo, malukop ang imuhang kalawasan. So the tattoo were often blue-black, using natural dyes and suit. Okay? So, tattoos were often blue-black. Okay? Okay. So, the cultural legacy and revival. Spanish colonization suppressed tattooing, labeling it a pagan and uncivilized. Okay? So, pag abot na sa mga Spanish, hold on. Okay. So, Spanish colonization, gisuppress nila ang tattooing, gilabel nila as pagan and uncivilized. Today, Filipino tattoo artists and cultural advocates are reviving these traditions, honoring ancestral identity and indigenous pride. Festivals like Pintados, Kasadyaan, and Leyte celebrate this heritage through body painting, dance, and storytelling. So, pag-abo sa Spanish, gi-suppress nila ang pagpatato. Kay, giko nila as kanang pagan or uncivilized. So, before colonizers brought ink, Filipinos were already writing their story in their skin. The Pintados didn't just wear tattoo. They wore history, honor, and hope. Hold on, check natin. Oh my God! Kataas pa ni Lord. Okay, so 73. Napila ni siya ka slide. 104. So, naapay. Taas sa pa we. Pero sige lang laban. Okay, let us now proceed in the artifacts. Again, let us proceed to the artifacts. So, Ling Ling O, this is a jade ornament symbolizing fertility and prestige. Ang Ono petroglyphs, this is a rock carvings dating back in 2500 before Common Era. So what is a Ling Ling O? So this is the penannular or open circle ear ornament, often made of green nephrite jade, gold, shell, or copper. This is worn by high status individuals across Luzon, Palawan, and Batanes. So dates back to the early Metal Age in 500 BCE and to 500 Common Era, with origins linked to the maritime Jade Road, a vast trade network connecting Taiwan, Vietnam, and the Philippines. So symbolism and spiritual use for Ling Ling O. So this is it represents fertility, balance, and spiritual protection. So ang kanang Ling Ling O or ang kuan ginabuhat na nilang pendant to represents fertility, balance, and spiritual protection. The outer ring symbolizes the female womb, while the inner space reflects masculine energy, a union of life-giving forces. Also used in rituals by Babaylans, especially for blessings related to childbirth, harvest, and healing. So the Lingling-o is a sacred echo of creation where masculine and feminine energies unite to bless life. So Angono petroglyphs. This is the oldest rock art in the Philippines. So a series of 127 human and animal figures carved into a rock wall in Angono, Rizal, dated around 2500 BCE, before Common Era, making them the oldest known prehistoric art in the Philippines. discovered in 1965 by national artist Carlos Botong Francesco. Okay? So the Angono petroglyphs, this is the oldest known prehistoric art in the Philippines. Cultural and ritual significance. So the Angono petroglyphs believed to be healing symbols used as sympathetic magic or rituals for wellness and protection. The carving reflects animistic beliefs, where spirits inhabit nature and art becomes a medium of divine connection. So the carving reflect animistic beliefs where spirits inhabit nature and art becomes a medium for divine connection. The site is considered sacred and is now protected as a national cultural treasure. So protected na siya. So these petroglyphs, our ancestral prayer etched in stone, prove that even in silence, our ancestors spoke to the divine. Okay, long before colonizers carved cathedrals, Filipinos already carved prayers in stone and word creation in their ears. Lingling O and Angono petroglyphs prove that our ancestors were artists, healers, and believers. So now let us proceed to the legacy and relevance for today for the prehistoric in the Philippines. So pre-colonial Philippines reclaiming civilization and brilliance. Hold on. Pre-colonial Philippines reclaiming a civilizations of brilliance and belief. So, challenging the myth of primitiveness. For centuries, colonial narratives painted pre-colonial Filipinos as uncivilized or primitive. But archaeological evidence, oral tradition, and indigenous systems prove otherwise. Okay? So, Filipinos had already a structured governance through barangays and led by the datus. They practiced animistic spirituality with rituals, sacred spaces, and spiritual leaders like babaylans. They engaged in international trade using gold currency and built maritime network. They created epic scripts and symbolic art including babaylan, lingling oo, and petroglyphs. Okay? So, ang kolonyal ginaingon ang mga Filipino nga uncivilized or primitive, but they don't know that the Filipino has already a structured form of governance. They have already they're already artistic. Kanang nga na good. So they are wrong. Okay? Because archaeological evidence says a lot about the pre-colonial history. Spiritual and cultural continuity. Indigenous belief laid the foundation for Filipino spirituality, later blending with Christianity in powerful ways. So practices like bayanihan, pagmamano, and ritual healing trace back to pre-colonial values of respect, community, and spiritual connection. The Babylon's legacy lives in the modern healers, educators, and faith leaders, especially women. So, political and economic foundation. The barangay system evolved into this local governance, still the smallest political units in the Philippines. Pre-colonial trade networks laid the groundwork for Filipino entrepreneurship, maritime skills, and regional diplomacy. And the Dato's role as steward and protector echoes in today's calls for servant leadership and community-centered governance. Okay? So, cultural pride and revival. Filipino artists, scholars, and educators are reviving baybayin, tattoo tradition, and indigenous rituals to reclaim identity. Festivals like Pintados, Kasadyaan, Panagbenga, and Kadayawan celebrates ancestral art that the Angono petroglyphs, Manonggol jar, and the Lingling O are now protected as national cultural treasures, reminding us of our deep roots. So, the relevance for our educators and creators is teaching pre-colonial history, helps decolonize the curriculum, empowering students to see themselves as heirs of brilliance, not victims of conquest. For content, so our ancestors didn't wait for colonizers to give them meaning. They live it, carve it, and passed it on. So, before pa naabot ang mga Spaniards, before pa naabot ang mga colonizers, our ancestors have already um, showing knowledge, artistic skill, bravery, resilience, and so on and so forth. Okay? So long before colonizers arrived, Filipinos were already thriving spirituality, politically, and economically. The pre-colonial era wasn't a blank page, it was a masterpiece waiting to be remembered. So why understanding the pre-colonial era matters today? It is because pre-colonial era matters for it is because for centuries, history books frame pre-colonial Filipinos as uncivilized, primitive, or waiting to be discovered. Spanish chronicles often dismiss indigenous governance, spirituality, and culture as inferior or pagan. So this narrative erase the complexity and diversity of pre-colonial societies and undermine indigenous system of law, leadership, and belief, and also position colonizers as saviors rather than disruptors. So colonization did not begin our story; it interrupted the story. Okay, our ancestors were already thriving in wisdom, worship, and community. So what decolonizing history really so to decolonize history is to center indigenous voices and perspective, reclaim cultural achievements in governance, trade, art, and spirituality. Challenge Eurocentric timelines that treat colonization as the beginning of civilization. And restore pride in Filipino identity, especially among educators and youth. So, what we reclaim is the barangay governance rooted in kinship and wisdom, not chaos, okay? Babaylan spirituality that healed bodies and communities. So this is not superstition. A baybayin literacy, epic storytelling, and symbolic art. This is not illiteracy. Trade networks and craftsmanship that connected US to Asia is not an isolation. So these aren't just facts, they are the foundation. Teaching them helps students see themselves as heirs of brilliance, not the victim of conquest. So decolonizing history isn't rewriting the past or it's restore decolonizing history isn't rewriting the past, it's restoring what was erased. When we teach the pre-colonial era, we don't just inform, but rather we empower. The faith and heritage, so indigenous belief laid the foundation for Filipino spirituality, later blending with Christianity in powerful ways. So the indigenous spirituality to the original faith. Before the arrival of Islam and Christianity, Filipinos practiced polytheistic and animistic religions, which is rooted in nature, ancestors, and divine forces. These beliefs system were not primitive. They were complex, relational, and deeply spiritual. So first they have Anito, which is the spirit of ancestors, nature, and deities who guided, protected, and judged. They have Bathala, Kaptan, Kabunian. This is the regional supreme deities who govern the cosmos. Diwata, this is benevolent nature spirit associated with rivers, mountain, forest. Babaylan or Katalunan, this is a spiritual leaders, often women who perform rituals, heal the sick, and maintain cosmic balance. So the spiritual practices and sacred spaces, rituals included offering chants, dances, and bloodless or blood sacrifices. Sacred spaces were often natural groves, riversides, mountaintops, reflecting a worldview where creation itself was divine. They have also burial rites involves offering, mourning rituals, and belief in soul immortality. So blending with Christianity, syncretism and survival. When Spanish colonizer introduced Catholicism in the 16th century, they attempted to suppress indigenous beliefs, but instead But instead of disappearing, many traditions were infused into Christian practices, creating what scholars call folk Catholicism. Anito veneration evolved in saint devotion, ritual offerings became fiestas and novenas, Babylon rules were mirrored in faith healers and prayer leaders. Sacred mountains and spring remained pilgrimage sites now with Maritime shrines. Okay. Filipino Christianity didn't erase indigenous faith, it embraced it, transforming colonial religion into uniquely Filipino spirituality. And relevance today, heritage as healing. Many Filipinos still practice blended rituals from anting-anting to pagpag, from padasal to hilot. Indigenous spirituality lives in the festivals, prayers, and community rituals. Understanding this heritage helps decolonize faith, restore pride, and deepen spiritual identity. And teaching this helps students to see that Filipino faith is not borrowed. It's born from ancestral wisdom and resilient adaptation. So, Filipino spirituality didn't begin with colonization, it began with creation. So, our faith is a tapestry woven from Anito Bathala and the Bible. Modern impact, living legacies of pre-colonial tradition. So, this is how bayanihan, bahay kubo, the balangay still shape Filipino identity today. Bayanihan, the spirit of collective strength. Bayanihan from bayan, which is community, is the enduring Filipino value of communal unity and selfless cooperation. Historically, it referred to neighbors lifting and relocating a bahay kubo together, which is a literal act of shared labor. So today, bayanihan still lives on. Let's say, for example, in disaster response and relief efforts, that is still bayanihan. Community cleans up and feeding programs, that is still bayanihan. Online collaborations and crowdfunding for those in need, and that is still a bayanihan. So bayanihan is more than a teamwork. It's a spiritual act of service where helping others becomes worship. And bahay kubo naman, this is architecture of simplicity and sustainability. Again, the bahay kubo is a symbol of Filipino resilience, adaptability, and harmony with nature. It is built from bamboo, nipa, and other local materials as it reflects climate conscious design, which is elevated floors, step roofs, and open ventilation. Community centered living, which is open spaces, shared meals, flexible layouts. Modern architect now reimagine bahay kubo design using sustainable materials and contemporary aesthetics, blending tradition with innovation. So, the bahay kubo, this is not isn't just a house. It's a hymn to humility, hospitality, and heritage. And the balangay, navigating identity and nationhood. The balangay, an ancient boast, symbolizes migration, community, and shared journey. It gave birth to the term barangay, the smallest political unit in the Philippines. So today, the barangay represents Filipino maritime heritage craftsmanship, the idea of navigating challenges together as one people. A metaphor for nation building a root in kinship and cooperation. So these symbols aren't just relics. They are reminders. So these show that Filipino identity is built on movement, meaning, and mutual care.